Hello, amazing brothers and sisters. Today we begin the Wavespell of the Red Skywalker. If you're new here, I'm Andra, and in these videos we are exploring the Dreamspell calendar, a harmonic calendar system aligned to the cyclical rhythm of the Earth and the galaxy, inspired by the ancient Mayan calendar. "52 days ago on Red Magnetic Dragon, I began a video series exploring the meaning of the different wave spells within the calendar. You'll want to check out the videos The Structure of the Tzolk'in and The Structure of Wave Spells if this is something new for you. And not only are we entering the Red Skywalker of Wavespell, we are also entering the White Northern Castle of Crossing that you can learn more about through the video on the 5 Destiny Castles. But basically, whenever we begin a red wave spell, this means that we are entering a new castle cycle of 52 days. The wave spell of the Red Skywalker looks like this, with its wave-like structure progressing through the solar seals from the Red Magnetic Skywalker to the Red Cosmic Serpent. The Skywalker, as the name suggests, is the one that walks among the clouds, traveling the sky, discovering higher realities by expanding his consciousness. He's the messenger of heavens, teaching us how to embody our cosmic wisdom. His Mayan name is Ben, and if you're a Star Wars fan like me, I couldn't help but notice the correlation between the name Skywalker and Ben, the name Obi-Wan Kenobi goes by in the original series. That was my inner geek coming to the surface. Anyway, back to the Dreamspell calendar. If we look at the glyph of the Red Skywalker, we're going to notice 2 pillars coming from below, representing the pillars of Earth, and 2 pillars coming from above, representing the pillars of heavens. The part in the middle that unites the 2 pillars, that represents the Skywalker energy. Basically, he's the one that builds a bridge between heaven and earth. And he's the one that brings the energy of heaven back down to earth and anchors it in this reality, connecting us to higher dimensions and a higher wisdom. It's the Skywalker's mission to bring back down to earth all of the wisdom and the teaching he receives during his exploration of the heavens. And he teaches us how to incarnate the impalpable spiritual realms in our everyday life. He can experience really high vibrations and frequencies, but in the shadow, he can also become a little addicted to escaping reality in order to feel them. This is because most of the time we aren't really able to find these higher vibrations or to experience them in the physical reality. So rather than coming back down to earth to share the teachings, the light, and the wisdom he receives from higher planes, the Skywalker remains up there among the clouds. He doesn't really accept the reality he's living in, so he retreats into his inner sanctuary, goes into hermit mode, and cuts himself off from anything that could interfere with his experience of higher frequencies. The Skywalker is my complementary energy, so I have a deep connection to it. And throughout my life, I've been going in and out of hermit mode. But ever since the whole pandemic thing started, I've really been deep into hermit mode and struggling a little to get out of it. Not 100% hermit, but definitely interacting with people less than I used to. The thing is that especially for the Skywalker archetype, when we are in hermit mode, it's mainly because of the feeling of being misunderstood by the world around us, or because the outside world seems to distract us from the experience of higher realities. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with hermit mode, especially if we're in the process of healing, learning something new, creating a masterpiece, learning how to love ourselves unconditionally, or just putting things in our life in order. Sometimes we need to detach from the outside world and focus only inward. And I've been having a lot of inner work to do lately, and also all sorts of new projects that I started. But when hermit mode becomes a way of being rather than a stage, it can get a little tricky, because humans need connection, and we learn just as much by interacting with the outside world as we do going inward. So the Skywalker can work in two ways. Either he's going to make you go inward to work on whatever's there, or he can make you feel a little bit bored of hermit mode, making you face the real reason why you went into hiding in the first place. Part of why we're here is to share our gifts, our wisdom, and our perception with the world around us. And we cannot do this by being locked away in our little tower and only interacting with people who get it. Many times I was surprised to interact with people who I thought wouldn't get it, to actually see that they do. That's the whole thing. If we, as people who question the very nature of reality, don't expose people to our truth, how are they ever going to expand their consciousness beyond what they have been taught to believe is real and true? When we create this separation in our perception between us versus them, this is just our ego playing power games. And speaking of separation, another thing that the Skywalker brings is an end to the duality that exists between our soul and our mind, between the masculine and the feminine aspects, between the human self and the higher self. He's the one that brings balance to all of the different aspects within us, thus transforming our very being into the pillar that unites heaven and earth. Balance is what helps us find our center in the middle of the movement and the changes of life. But in the shadow aspects of the Red Skywalker, we can experience a very deep inner separation that comes as a result of separating our inner and outer realities. Again, this basically happens out of the feeling of being misunderstood, where basically the Skywalker is presenting a false version of himself to the world, and he's keeping who he is only for himself. When this happens, we can very easily develop a split personality, or even several personalities based on who we're interacting with. And this might be a touchy subject, but many people who suffer from split personality disorders are experiencing exactly that. I've had a few people around me go through this and heard quite a few stories about people who are diagnosed with split personality, because for many people experiencing this, it's an outbreak of their being asking to be seen as it is, taking down all of the masks and throwing them away. And of course, for family members or close friends that are used to us being in a certain way, it's shocking and they don't know what to do, so they end up putting that person into a mental hospital to fix them, when in fact there's nothing to be fixed. I experienced this in my family, so this is something really close to home, and I speak from personal experience. And I myself have experienced at times a split personality, especially when the mind and the heart were fighting each other. And most of my childhood and young adult years, when I was like a chameleon, blending in groups as it was needed, but not speaking my full truth or sharing my authentic self. So the Skywalker makes us take a really good hard look at all of the fears and the frustrations that are keeping us from sharing our truth in any moment, in any situation. He asks us to take off all of the masks and to have the courage to be ourselves. Yes, in this process, some people might end up rejecting us, but the right ones won't. And yes, some people might choose to leave from our lives, but this only makes room for the right people to step in. Also, the Skywalker is the explorer of space and time, the one who dives into the vastness of imagination and dreams. He awakens our creativity to life and offers us insights and inspiration, new ideas, many which come from higher planes. And he can offer us a lot of these inspirations mainly through dreams. So during this Wavespell, pay attention to the dreams that you might have. Who knows what treasures you're going to discover there. Being the explorer of space and time, of the inner and outer worlds, he gives us the need to move, to explore the inner and outer realms in order to expand our consciousness. And I've actually met quite a few Red Skywalkers who felt the need to be on the move a lot, especially in the external world, traveling all around and not really staying in one place for too long. And something very powerful that actually a Red Skywalker shared with me was that she stopped traveling after 6 years of being on the move and decided to ground herself in one place and build something there, because she realized that in all of her travels she was actually running away from herself and from the world. This is another way through which the Skywalker can avoid dealing with its reality. I also experienced this for 2 years when I was traveling quite a lot and on the move. And I also reached the point where I just felt the need to stop and just ground myself. Traveling has indeed expanded my consciousness and taught me so many things about myself and the world. But after a while, it just became a way for running away and not facing certain things in my life. So, if the Skywalker is bringing the need to somehow run away, ask yourself why. What are you trying to run away from, inside or outside of yourself? For me, in my travels, one of the things that I was avoiding was actually doing some inner work. Whenever I would stay put for too long, I'd catch glimpses of what I needed to be working on, but because I was constantly moving, I would always find excuses not to do that work. So after being brought in the situation where I had to stay put, and also because I started a new relationship after 2 years of being on my own, all of the things that I was avoiding all of a sudden were brought to the surface to be healed and integrated. And it was and is a lot of work, to be honest. So my advice is to be patient with yourself. You cannot heal or unlearn in a few days, weeks, or months things that took a lifetime to develop within you. It takes a lot of patience and practice. And to connect with his soul, the Skywalker has to find a good grounding in his everyday human life. We need this fluid type of structure in our life that helps us ground ourselves in our body, our life, our community, our physical reality. And this practice or grounding can look different for each and every one of us, but structure and discipline is needed if we want to organize our reality in a way that sustains us. Paradoxically, we need to be grounded in the material plane if we want to connect more deeply with our higher self. And that's actually how we bring heaven back down to earth. We need to tend to the lower chakras first so the higher chakras can open, which is why another interpretation for the glyph of the solar seal is the lower pillars represent the lower chakras, the upper pillars represent the upper chakras, and the part in the middle representing the Skywalker energy is the heart chakra. Our heart is the place where we synthesize all of the different realities and dimensions of life through universal love, tolerance, and compassion. Which is why I see the Red Skywalker a lot as the initiation into opening the heart in order to remember our essence, which is pure love, and the initiation into exploring the higher aspects of our being. And when the Skywalker opens his heart, all of his shadows melt away. Then he can once again be a part of this world. He can share his truth. He can stop running away. So during these 13 days, take the time to explore the different polarities of your being. Is there a split between different aspects of yourself? And what can you do to heal that? What can you do to allow more of your true self to show itself to the world? Are you afraid of being misunderstood? And if so, where is that fear coming from? Are you running away from the world, either by constantly being on the move or by isolating yourself? What are you running away from? And if you feel the hermit mode coming on, is it because you have inner work to do, or is it because you are avoiding something? Are you grounded in your everyday life? And if not, what can you do to feel more grounded and be a part of this world? As always, whatever questions you might have about the Dreamspell calendar, or if you want to understand the gifts that you are carrying, as well as your shadows, through a galactic signature decoding session, send me a message either on my Facebook page or on my email. Wishing you an expanding Wavespell, and I will see you on the White Magnetic World Bridger. In Lak'Ech.